Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine, and I vlog daily since the start of brutal Russian invasion to my beautiful and independent country. If you support Ukraine, please subscribe because the world needs to know more about us. And today I am going to speak about the topic that I like, but once again I could not imagine talking about it a year and a half ago. I am going to speak about the liquidation of Russian General, Major General Serhiy Khrushchev. Well, a brief introduction, which I consider important. Before brutal Russian invasion and this totally unjust and extremely violent war in my country, I was against all the military stuff. I even hated military t-shirts. But witnessing all the crimes that Russia commits daily in my country, I have to confess I'm satisfied when I see the results of Ukrainians' successful counter-offensive. So recently we've learned that Major General of Russian Army, 35th Russian Army, Serhiy Khrushchev, was liquidated, was killed with a missile in the zone of Zaporizhia. This is an extremely hot zone where Ukrainians conduct counter-offensive operation, and as we see, pretty successfully. This general was not the one to die, and it is likely that a number of important officers were also with him in that location when a missile hit them and sent them to hell, where they actually belong. And no, I don't feel sorry for any of Russian generals who came to Ukraine to kill. There is a very simple test. When you meet a soldier who is Russian on the territory of Ukraine, ask him a question: what is he doing here? And surely there is no normal answer, so they have to be punished for that. And we have to return back our country. But I want to clarify why it is so important to actually witness the death of the 11th Russian general on the territory of Ukraine. So to some extent, Russia conducts demilitarization operation pretty successfully with just one distortion. It is Russian demilitarization, not Ukrainian. Well, the information on the death of General Khrushchev was both in Ukrainian and Russian military sources. It was not proved officially, but such things are rarely spoken by spokespersons, but on both sides, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers and other military share this information. So with a very, very, very great percentage, it is likely to be the truth. So, as I have already mentioned, it is the 11th Russian army general that was killed during Russian war in Ukraine. At the very beginning of this war, many of them died. What did it mean? Well, first of all, Russian blitzkrieg failed. And instead of 3 days and capturing Kyiv, they needed like a year and a half, not able to capture Bakhmut. Anyway, everything failed according to Putin's plan, and many generals and other top military were sent to Ukraine, to the front lines, to correct operation, to stop people from escaping from their positions on front lines. And that's why in this first months of Russian war in Ukraine, many generals were present at the front lines and were killed at these front lines. Then for a very long period of time, there was a pause where Russians changed their tactics and Ukrainians were mainly protecting, they were attacking, and fewer generals visited us, and as a result, fewer of them died. This new death of Russian general on the territory of Ukraine means that they have once again entered this active failure phase, which is a proof of success for Ukrainian counter-offensive. So this is a signal that they have serious troubles and they send top managers to manage them in the trenches, but you see how successful this manager was. He demonstrated Russian soldiers what is the best thing to do in Ukraine, and that is die. Well, Ukrainian army managed to liberate 7 settlements in this region, which is also important, and I'm super happy for those people who are liberated and finally return back to Ukrainian family. It's always difficult. Russians continue shelling these territories, but this is very symbolic and like meaningful to all of us. British intelligence services say that Russians have managed to build very serious defense lines across the front line, and actually many of these British intelligence service agents say that these are the largest, the strongest defensive lines they have ever seen, which once again prove that they were getting ready and that they are afraid of Ukrainian armed forces and what we can do, because we are protecting our motherland, and this is a totally different level of everything. You're fighting for a sacred cause, to protect your land, to protect your children, to protect your future, contrary to looting, raping, hungry, miserable Russian orcs. I'm sorry. So, it is important to remember that Ukrainians are still not that well equipped, and the majority of operations, counter-offensive operations that we conduct, they are ground operations. And we do not have everything that like even was announced. Even F-16 aren't flying above our heads yet. So all of our soldiers, they are not protected from the air. We don't have enough long-range missiles, air defense systems working well only above Kyiv. Look at what happened in Kryvyi Rih tonight when Russians once again attacked civilian infrastructure. So lacking all of that supplies, because it takes months for training, it takes months for delivery, we are doing a good job. And when some of you doubt and wait for more results to be demonstrated, please understand, it is a real war, a very violent war, and we still lack lots of weapons because it takes months. Honestly, sometimes I imagine how different this war would be if we had all of air defense systems, F-16, long-range missiles at the very beginning of this war. We might have saved thousands of lives. But we are very grateful for the support you and your countries demonstrate and for the supply, because that's vital for our joint victory. And just like a brief slogan for those who are not kind like me, and you cannot be kind when a huge foreign army came to kill you. So the more long-range missiles we have, the fewer Russian generals we have. They remain less and less of them. And if we have more of that, we can clean our territory faster and thus stop any ideas of Russia or similar authoritarian regimes of similar occupations, because that could lead to serious problems for the whole planet. Thank you so much for the understanding that you demonstrate. If you have some questions, please leave them in comments. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons. Introduce yourself to our shop where you can buy beautiful patriotic caps, t-shirts, and they work as perfect conversation starters. The link to my Instagram, Twitter, and all of the above mentioned is below this video in its description. But most importantly, thank you for your support that you daily demonstrate to my country, Ukraine. We are super grateful. Slava Ukraini!